The beta is over. I got invited day one and played the whole time. Here's my unit tier list. Quick disclaimer, this is my opinion, and basically every unit can be played at a high level, but some units are better than others. I break my tier list into 5 tiers: S, A, B, C, and F. S is for units that are overpowered and I believe should be nerfed. F is for units that are underpowered and I believe should be buffed. A, B, and C represents the spectrum of acceptable balance. A represents units that are strong but fair. B represents units that are good if you build around them. And C represents units that are bad but not underpowered. Let's hop right in, starting with the core units. The Recall is a solid unit. The ability Recall allows you to teleport to one of your bases. Great as a defensive tool. The ability does have a delay, making it punishing to use in combat. However, a damaged army is better than no army. The Recall is slower than the average unit, but has slightly above average bulk and damage. With all that said, the Recall goes squarely into the A tier. The Recall Hunter is great. He falls into both the Recall and Hunter class, and when these two archetypes are put together, they get stronger. Being able to shoot up makes the defensive utility of the Recall Hunter incredible. You can very reasonably defend all 5 of your bases from flyers with only Recall Hunters. No other unit can say that. And with that said, I'm placing Recall Hunters in the A tier. The Wasp is insane. They have some of the highest DPS of the core units, especially when you factor in they only cost 25 matter. They're surprisingly bulky, especially when you factor in that they only cost 25 matter. And they're unbelievably fast, especially when you factor in that they only cost 25 matter. They pull up to your base, kill your starting units, kill your workers, and then kill your base. To fix the Wasp, I would rebalance the stats. They should be half as tanky and deal a little more damage. The Wasp is buzzing straight into the S tier. The Scorpion is very strong. It strikes a great balance between speed, damage, and bulk. Of the melee core units, it's the bulkiest per resource spent. And there's nothing really bad to say about Scorpions. Oh wait, there is. They're everywhere. Every other player is using Scorpions. They're incredibly oppressive, just like the Wasp. They will run you down, take forever to die. They are a complete nightmare. I would reduce their damage by a lot. They should have the lowest DPS per matter spent of the melee core units. Scorpions are scuttling into the S tier. The Crab is a fun unit. I mean, it's the Crab. My first video was about crabs. I must love crabs, right? Well, actually, Crab kinda sucks. Compared to the Scorpion, Crab is almost strictly worse. Of the melee core units, Crab comes in last. However, I think the Crab will be more viable as Scorpion and Wasp are made weaker. But for now, I'm gonna put Crab in the B tier. B for Brab. The Beetle is a solid unit. They have good bulk, serviceable speed, fine damage, and can shoot up. But they don't really do anything that well. They don't have an ability. They aren't the best at defending bases. They're just an overall good unit with no real identity. I could put the Beetle in the B tier, however, I think they belong in the C tier. C for Keetle. The Blink at face value looks kinda weak. He has low damage and is pretty fragile. However, the Blink ability makes up for all of that. Being able to instantly retreat or instantly pursue is unbelievably strong. You can retain your blanks easily and generate so much advantage that way. They do have some trouble in the early game, especially against Wasps, but their strengths make up for it. I'm putting Blinks in the A tier. The Blink Hunter is incredible. He falls into both the Blink and Hunter class, and when these two archetypes are put together, they get stronger. The extra mobility, as a Hunter unit, allows them to threaten flyers so much more than any other Hunter. Not to mention, the Blink ability is just super useful by itself. Blink Hunters easily land in the A tier. The Hunter sucks. It feels like a unit that exists just to be in the tutorial and act as a starting point for other better units. It's strictly worse than the Blink Hunter and just sucks. I would like to see the Hunter get some type of useful feature, like more range or higher damage, or something that makes it worth using. The Hunter is F tier. The Gunbot is an interesting unit. It's the only ranged core unit that costs 50 matter. When you account for cost, they can deal double the damage of other ranged units, making them a favorite partner for wasps, scorpions, and crabs. The overclock ability makes gunbots run at a normal speed and deal more damage, but you'll basically never run out of charges. I'm placing the gunbot in the A tier. The Missilebot is a strange unit. Its intended partner, Gunbot, is running around with all these melee core units, and Missilebot is just left at home regretting her marriage. But she has some good qualities. Solid bulk, solid damage, hunter range, and overclock. However, I don't think Missilebot will be joining her partner in A tier. Instead, she's sitting at home, alone, in B tier. The Hornet is a great unit. They deal solid damage, they're incredibly fast, and they can shoot up. Because of their amazing speed and serviceable damage, they can chase down and kill flyers on open ground like no other unit can. All their strengths synergize so well that I'm putting Hornets in the A tier. The Shocker is an amazing unit. It is slow and somewhat fragile, but it makes up for that with its attack. It deals crazy high splash damage with a slow attack speed. However, this is really nice. You only need one attack to deal massive splash damage. A lot of fights involve multiple engagements and disengagements, and the Shocker loves this. The amazing dynamics of their attack and how it fits into battle aces so well convinces me that Shockers belong in the A tier. The Ballista is a solid unit. It has splash damage, high fire rate, serviceable speed, and bad bulk. Dealing splash damage is incredibly useful. The only problem is that you have to be in range to deal damage. And the potential positive of having high fire rate becomes a negative when you factor in that in most engagements, armies clash, then retreat, only giving ballistas a short window, if any window, to deal damage. Then we have to mention the Shocker. The Shocker is almost strictly better than the Ballista. Even with how good the Ballista could be, I'm placing it in C tier. The King Crab is great. Acting as a melee bruiser, King Crab can cleave through units while taking a beating. There's nothing more satisfying than watching a group of King Crabs fight any core unit, and being in the Foundry allows him to be created to counter those spammable core units. I could place King Crab in the B tier, however, I think they fit into the game so well that they're barely A tier. The Crusader is one of the best units in the game. It has insane bulk, great damage, and good speed. It's the archetypal bulky frontline which protects the high damage backlines. You either use Crusader or you counter Crusader. There is no middle ground. It's a meta-defining unit. The Crusader is so good that I believe it should be nerfed. I wouldn't make it less tanky. I think it should maintain the bulky frontline role. However, I would nerf its damage. It should deal half as much damage as it's dealing right now. The Crusader crusades into the S tier. The Bomber is the bailing of battle aces. It sacrifices its life to deal splash damage. In theory, it should be good, but in practice, it's not. A problem I've identified is the economics of using bombers. Bombers cost energy and generally kill units that only cost matter. So you may get a good trade in terms of matter, but you will always lose in terms of energy, and energy is the more important resource. In addition, in battle aces, there is no lack of units that deal splash damage. You don't need to tech into lurkers to get splash, you can just tech into shockers. The Bomber drops into C tier. The Recall Shocker falls into the class of both recalls and shockers. He is slow, has a decent bulk, splash damage, and the ability Recall. Offensively, the lack of speed holds your entire army back. The bulk, splash damage, and recall ability make him a strong defender. However, you generally have to hurt your opponent to win the game, and Recall Shockers can't do that easily. Because of this, I'm putting him in the C tier. The Mortar is an interesting unit. It has an interesting mechanic. It has to siege before it can attack. It deals great damage, has decent bulk, good speed, and fantastic range. The main weakness is this sieging mechanic. There are other ways of getting splash damage who can shoot, then move, and a couple of tanky units can soak damage for other units. If you don't protect them, they can be easily taken out. The Mortar sieges itself squarely into B tier. The Raider sucks. At the start of the beta, it was super fast and oppressive. Then they changed it to have average speed and less bulk, and now it's terrible. You can still kill worker lines with it, but now it feels like a golf cart and not a super cool raiding vehicle. I would just give it more speed and make it less bulky. If you intercept it, it should die, but you shouldn't be able to chase it with normal units. The raider is drifting into the F tier. The Swift Shocker is an interesting version of the Shocker archetype. You give up some bulk, range, and damage, but get amazing speed. How good is this trade? It's okay. If you're using a faster army, Swift Shockers can slot right in. However, if you don't need to use the Swift Shocker, the regular Shocker is almost always better. The Swift Shocker drifts into B tier. The Heavy Hunter is great. It has great bulk, average speed, great range, and great damage versus air. It can be easily amassed to counter most air units. The range gives them a real niche even in ground battles with backline attackers. The Heavy Hunter is a fantastic unit and slides into the A tier. The Destroyer is amazing. It's a single target version of the Shocker. It has great single target damage, good range, decent bulk, and okay speed. It's the premier counter to the Crusader. It can melt bases, which makes it very dangerous. Overall, the Destroyer marches into A tier. The turret is a cool idea, but it doesn't feel like it belongs in Battle Aces. It gets plopped down next to a base and just sits there. They have good damage and bulk, but you can't move them. I think I would change the turret to be a little more interesting. After 1 minute on the field, if the turret wasn't destroyed, it flies back into the air and it gets converted back into resources. Something like that would make the unit feel more interesting. For now, the turret and its big brother Heavy Turret get deployed into the F tier. The Butterfly is an interesting unit. It can't shoot up, has abysmal bulk, but deals crazy high damage. If you can have Butterflies safely attack anything, they will be well worth the investment. However, that's the hard part. If you can get Butterflies on an exposed worker line, they'll kill it in seconds. If there's defenders, they will die in seconds. I couldn't in good faith put them in the A tier, so instead Butterflies are fluttering into the B tier. The Dragonfly is amazing. You get everything you want in the perfect amount. It has amazing speed, great bulk, and good damage. It can reasonably fight its counter, which is rare. It can be put in the main army or be sent to harass worker lines. It can even shoot up. It can truly do everything. Dragonflies swoop into the A tier. The Falcon is a solid unit. It's an anti-ground flyer with insane bulk. However, it's incredibly slow. The saving grace is that it fulfills a niche that no other unit does. It's a main army, flying, anti-ground specialist in the Starforge. You won't be harassing worker lines with Falcons, but you will be demolishing king crabs. I could put Falcon in the C tier, however, I think they deserve to be in the B tier. The airship is a great unit. It does exactly what it advertises. It controls the air. It's the best air controller in the Starforge. It does get outclassed by the Valkyrie, but that unit is located in the advanced Starforge. Its main weakness is that it's countered by any core unit that attacks air, and almost every deck will have access to one of these units. The airship flies safely into B tier. The Advanced Recall is one of the more interesting units. Unlike the other advanced units, the Advanced Recall isn't a strict upgrade of the Recall. The Advanced Recall has twice the DPS, but half the health of its non-advanced version. Interestingly, this trade-off, when combined with the Recall ability, creates one of the most dangerous units in the game. Defensively, Advanced Recalls can melt ground attackers. Offensively, Advanced Recalls don't snipe workers, they snipe bases. And after killing your base in 4 seconds, they just recall away. I honestly believe this incredibly creative and interesting unit is squarely in A tier. The Mammoth is one of the best units in the game. It has insane bulk, decent damage, good speed, and most importantly, is located in the Starforge. The way a lot of matches go is both players expand, both players tech, player who has bulky frontline destroys player who doesn't have bulky frontline. Mammoth is that bulky frontline. However, Mammoth also deals decent damage and has average speed. I think the Mammoth is actually too good and too omnipresent in the meta. I think its bulk should stay the same, however, it should either deal significantly less damage or be slower. Mammoth is joining Crusader in the S tier. The Stinger is an interesting unit. It is incredibly fast with high damage, low range, and low bulk. It can harass worker lines effectively, but I found that its main use is as a backline attacker when paired with wasps or scorpions. It deals a lot of damage and is insanely fast. I feel like I could put it in the A tier, but for now, it's drifting into B tier. The Heavy Ballista is very powerful. It has some of the highest DPS even before you factor in that it deals splash damage. It's reasonably bulky, has good range, and is the quintessential endgame unit. Once you amass a couple of these babies, no ground army can stand against you. However, keyword ground army. It has a massive vulnerability to flyers, which keeps it in the realm of fair and balanced. The Heavy Ballista rolls into A tier. The Sniper is an interesting unit. It has the longest range in the game, even longer than the Mortar. It has great damage with low bulk and speed. Overall, this is a very specialized unit. It does one thing really well: put it behind a backline and watch it work. The main weakness is, if you aren't winning a fight, you can't retreat effectively with the Sniper. Because of this, the Sniper is landing in the B tier. The Advanced Blink is insanely good. The Blink ability is arguably the best ability in the game. Combine that with double the health, double the damage, and the ability to shoot up, you're looking at one of the best units in the game, period. The Advanced Blink is easily A tier. The Assault Bot is an interesting unit. It's very similar to the Advanced Recall. It is also an upgraded version of a core unit that specializes in ground damage. It has Overclock, which makes it better as a main army backline attacker. It only costs matter, which is incredibly powerful. It does its job better than anyone else, and for that, it's going in the A tier. The Behemoth is a very unassuming unit. It's very similar to the Crusader and Mammoth. However, there is one big difference that makes it amazing. It only costs matter. This completely changes the role the Behemoth plays economically. The other bulky units require an investment of your more precious resource, energy, while the Behemoth acts as a matter sink similar to the Assault Bot. This differentiation in economic role from the other bulky front lines makes Behemoth stand out. It lands itself comfortably in the A tier. The Predator is an interesting unit. It's the only splash damage air attacker. This is an incredible niche, but it is very niche, and you're using an advanced Foundry slot to bring them. Wouldn't you rather have Heavy Ballista or Behemoth or Advanced Blink? If you need late game anti-air, the Predator is very good. That much can be said. The Predator tootsie slides into into B tier. The Bulwark exists. It has good damage, good bulk, decent range, and bad speed. It's a very boring unit that just does its job. If you amass enough of them, you can usually win the game. There really isn't much else to say. It's just not that interesting of a unit. The Bulwark slowly hovers into B tier. The Cat Bus is a strong unit with an obvious weakness. What's the problem? Well, it can't shoot up. However, it can shoot down. It can really shoot down. It has phenomenal bulk, great damage, serviceable speed, and okay range. There's something so scary about a flyer that can reasonably beat ground-based counters. You need a very powerful ground counter or a flying counter to beat Cat Bus. They are floating their way into the A tier. The Locust is an interesting unit, an extremely fast flyer that deals great damage to both ground and air, looks good so far, there's no prevalent splash damage units that can shoot up. This should be a good unit. However, there's three glaring weaknesses. 1, the Locust is located in the advanced Starforge. 2, they're very squishy, and 3, they have low range. Because they're in the advanced Starforge, they will be unlocked later in the match. The low bulk causes them to die from even light harassment, and the low range causes them to never get the first volley and makes retreating more punishing. The best role for Locust is as a worker line harasser, but other units do that with other substantial advantages. Locust is buzzing into the C tier. The Kraken is easily the best unit in the game and lands squarely in the S tier. Okay, I'm just kidding. The Kraken is a funny unit. If you build it, you'll probably win the game. But that's a big if. 3,000 matter and 3,000 energy is a crazy amount of resources. I did the math, and it will take your main base 5 minutes worth of income to get enough energy to summon a Kraken. Another example, would you rather have 1 Kraken in 5 minutes or 24 dragonflies over the next 5 minutes? Most people will say 24 dragonflies. However, I think the Kraken is exactly where it should be. A super unit that in 1v1 you will never see, except that one time where that one player actually had a plan to release the Kraken. The Kraken is C tier. The Valkyrie is the queen of the skies. She has good bulk, great speed, great range, and phenomenal anti-air damage. She can shoot down, but deal significantly less damage. However, her role as a flying anti-air unit is unmatched. For that reason, she is flying into the A tier. The artillery is a unit that I didn't really use or play against at all, so my placement here is very theoretical. On the surface, the artillery has a lot going for it. It has fantastic range, splash damage, but low bulk and low speed. It is unlocked in the advanced Starforge, which is interesting because most splash damage is unlocked in the Foundry. However, that is also why it isn't that useful. You can get the splash damage you need from the Foundry. Because of this deck building problem, I believe artillery belongs in the B tier. The advanced spot is everything you want in an advanced version of a core unit. Compared to the gun bot, it has the exact same cost, but almost double the damage and can actually shoot up. There's really nothing more to say. It's just a solid unit, easily A tier. That's it, that's the list. Tell me what you think about it down below. And if you enjoyed this video, check out my other Battle Ace videos. And while you're down there commenting that I didn't place your favorite unit in the correct tier, click that subscribe button and like the video. I'll see you next time. Later.